Marcia and Courtney Leacock. We are going to be talking about our relationship with Boykin. George Daniel, whom we knew as Boykin over the years, and it will comprise some reminiscences of the two families that grew together. I am Courtney.
I'm Marcia.
And Marcia, when did you know Boykin?
I knew Boykin for a number of years in sailing. I sailed with my father, and he sailed with my brothers. And I would know Boykin every weekend in the sailing season. I would see Boykin at the sailing club, and we would interact, and he became a member, almost a member of our family. I think my dad looked on him as a son, and certainly my brothers and he got along very well together. So I knew him.
So he was a family man from those days.
In those days,
right?
Yes.
I, on the other hand, Boykin was a good buddy. He was my buddy. He was my brother. And I got to know him when I returned. But I don't know exactly when it started. But most certainly when I returned from England from studying, we met, and we struck it off straight away. And that relationship just continued through partying and so on, and meeting at his home in Winnie Mohammed Road in Pity Valley, in Theodore, Martin, I remember. But the crux of the matter is that Boykin was the prime mover in the relationship between Marcia and me. It all started when, on one particular All Year's Day, he came and told me that he had this young lady whose father had approved of her going out with me. I had never seen the young lady. This was a blind date. And in spite of my remonstrations, cut a long story short, Marcia and I went out on that All Year's night. And that is how our relationship all began.
And it was a blind date.
Mm-hmm,
it was a blind date. I had never met Courtney. I knew Boykin for so many years. And although later on I found out that he and Boykin had known each other so long, it was the first time meeting him. And if it wasn't for Boykin, well, I don't know, we would never have met, I don't think.
And then Boykin got married to Diane. I got married to Marcia in the same time, 1969. And I think we parted then again.
We got married in England. Boykin got married in Trinidad. Yeah. So it wasn't until really we came back,
yes,
after 3 years, so around 1972, that we really began to, get together. And then the children came along.
And then our son came along first. Our son Curtis came along first, and the family relationship was so close even at that time, so that we had asked Boykin to be the godfather.
Yes, he was godfather to Curtis. And as time went on, I became godmother to their first daughter, Nadia.
Uh-huh. And then the families, it's amazing how we just gelled. I mean, we just did things together. For example, when Boykin had this idea of starting up an ice cream business, we would spend hours and hours, especially on weekends, at his home in Diego Martin.
Tasting and trying out the recipes, all the different flavors. And, it was a fun time, fun time.
Very much, very, very fun. Very much fun. And then when they moved to Tobago, it was just standard, normal practice for our family to go across to Tobago every autumn vacation,
August vacation. The families as the last day of school happened, the kids were on the boat heading to Tobago. And that was just the norm. It became the norm in those years.
And then Marcia and I liked dogs. Boykin realized that, and he gave us a gift of a Rhodesian Ridgeback. And well, not only one gift, but another bull mastiff as well. And that started off our breeding experience.
Right.
You know. So even among the animals, there was this nexus between the two families. If ever we had any major problem, an emergency or even less than an emergency, Boykin was the first person we called.
We thought of, yes.
Yes,
And he would be there.
Yeah. And we have examples of that too. One of our dogs died. Boykin, I think Marcia, I was not home at the time.
No, you were away, and immediately I called Boykin. It was like in the wee hours of the morning, and he said, look, you go to work. I will see about everything. So said, so done. When I came back, the dog had been buried in the yard. Everything was shipshape. But that was Boykin.
And then after Deanne's passing, his wife Deanne's passing, we witnessed at close hand the extent to which Boykin became a single parent, put it that way.
He just took up the mantle and ran with it.
And he cooked and cleaned the house.
And did all,
so the children went to school. And it was a question of transportation of the children to their schools. Boykin used to take our daughter, or had arranged for our daughter, Christy, to go off to her primary school.
No, this is before. This is before.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes. But these are just examples to the extent to which Boykin's family was so much a part of our family, and vice versa.
Vice versa, yes.
He had his dreams. He would discuss his dreams with us. We would gel, and we would activate. We would action whatever had to be actioned.
Gathered here at this very intimate setting. First of all, I want to thank George for giving me the opportunity to say a few words about his dad. Now I want to fast forward everything that you've just heard to the point when I met George. I met George as a big man. And there was this man walking around in short pants. And my father asked me, he said, that is Boykin Daniel, you know. I said, oh, Kuti Daniel's son. I got to know him through our children, my daughters, my sons, his son, and his daughters. Fast forward a little bit. They went to school together. Graduation time, George danced with my eldest daughter. They were in class together. So I'm laying the foundation from where I came in terms of the relationship with George T. W. Daniel. And as life would have it, as you go ahead in life, you learn more and more about people. I never knew that George's name was Willard until I saw the program this morning. And, you know, that is how life is. You keep on learning about the people that you're around all the time. And so, we developed this relationship, one that brought him to us in Tobago as family, because having been identified as Kuti Daniel's son caused him to morph towards Tobago, and he settled in Tobago. So that is when I knew from Tobago. And we developed that relationship in a very fun-loving environment. A very fun-loving environment. And with me here is my friend Trevor Lionel Fitzgerald, to be exact. And we enjoyed beautiful days or nights because we had a penchant for fishing. We fished and we lined on the rocks and we talked and we made jokes and we caught and we didn't catch. And you know, and that type of relationship, not to in any way diminish his kindness to us as a family. In terms of his response to a need once expressed. I remember my daughter was building some apartments and I wanted a cement mixer. And I mentioned it, you know, and without arrangement, the cement mixer came the next day. And that was the character of George T.W. Daniel. You know, I always remember that, and it's sometimes overlooked by a lot of people in terms of the kindness that is expressed and demonstrated to them. For this and many other things, I'm eternally grateful to my friend George. Nonetheless, I still can't understand how a big man could walk about tongue in a short pants. It just wasn't the thing to do. But as short as he would have been, and the difference that we had in height, that in no way diminished his vision. His vision. As he incorporated the culture of Tobago from Robinson Crusoe and Man Friday into his business in Man Friday's ice cream parlor. And I thought that was very, 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 very thoughtful. So he had vision, big plans. Some came off, some didn't come off. But that's life. And we shared information, and there are several things that I saw that he expressed to me in terms of this road of life that I should follow and maybe I shouldn't follow. The whole learning process as a younger person, so a sage. And again, for that, I am extremely grateful. So, at this time, we reach a stage in life where the book of the life of George T.W. Daniel has reached its last chapter. That book will be in the shelves of our lives for reference in terms of the way to take, the positions to adopt, and we trust that that book will remain in the libraries of our lives for reference from time to time. So George, thanks for everything, and I trust that, you know, we all would have benefited from your life's experience, and that in so would make Tobago and Trinidad and Tobago and the society a better place. So I thank you, and God bless.
Sure. Yeah. Friends, family, loved ones, we are gathered here today to celebrate the life of our father, George Theodore Willard Daniel, also known as Boykin, Man Friday, the short pants man. First, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to everyone here today, both in person and virtually on the live stream. Your presence honors my father and shows the profound impact that he had on all of you and many others. My name is George B. Daniel. I am the second son of George T. Daniel, and on behalf of my siblings, my niece, Kyra, my brother Sean, Nadia, Keiko, we want to thank each of you for the important role that you have played in our dad's life. Both he and we appreciate you deeply. Boykin was one of a kind. I could call him Boykin now because he's not here. Because if he was here, he would say, "Who and you is Boykin?" I ain't one of your little snotty nose friend them, you know. I will get a stepladder and climb up there into 2 cloud. Dad once threatened a mischievous, freckled-faced friend of mine, and Dad jokingly said, "I will connect the dots on your face and reveal you for the fraud that you are, you know." Even in hard times, Dad's humor was a lifeline. He could make us laugh when we least expected it and reminded us that joy can exist even in sorrow. He defied labels and constantly pushed boundaries. By training, he was a food processing engineer, but that was only one part of who he was. He built scores of houses, million-dollar factories. He built power boats. We were building boats in the backyard. Sailboats, used to sail. Uncle Courtney and Auntie Marcy used to sail with them. Tinkered with automobiles. He ran successful businesses from ice cream, like Uncle Jerry said, Man Friday. And you all know where the Man Friday came from, right? He chose Man Friday because he like everything in Tobago named after Crusoe. What about the black man? Let me name something after Man Friday. The black man in the story. So, he was successful at many things and he failed at others. But I think, like Uncle Jerry said, that's life. You've heard the testimonials from a number of his friends, and we wanted you all to get a full understanding of who he was, because he's a complex person. We figured hearing those stories of the decades-long bonds that were created between our father and his friends would give you a genuine look into who Boykin was. He was a gifted speaker and a colorful storyteller. He could often be found holding court in any corner with his colleagues or even total strangers on a debate topic. An example of that, I was at St. George's University in Grenada, and my father called me one day randomly out of the blue. And he had to let me know. He said, I was on the ferry yesterday and I meet some African fella coming to Tobago for the Heritage Festival. And we start talking about the African diaspora. Well, you know how that you talk. The African diaspora. And somehow the gentleman mentioned that he was a student at St. George's, where I was. Now, there are thousands of students in the school. So my father tell the man, "Well, you must know my son." I never met the guy. I didn't know who he was among the thousands of students at St. George's. My father proceeds to tell the man, "How long are you in Tobago for?" He said, "Well, I'm not sure. I'm supposed to stay by a friend, but I just get a message that I don't know if the..." Daddy said, "Come and stay by me, man." He spent a week in the house. I was going good enough. I was going good. Yesterday, the gentleman in question, his name is Jasper, Dr. Jasper Gomba. Jasper, I'm pretty sure you're looking at this. Jasper called me yesterday to remind me of the impact that my father had on him as a complete stranger. And we have tons of stories like this. You know, things, generosity and compassion that Dad had for people. His passion for life. This is what defined him. The death of his beloved wife of 23 years, our mother Deanne Daniel, in 1992 was a major turning point for our family. I can confidently say, without the love and support of the people online and in this room, we would not have made it through that period. With the help of friends and family, Dad's entrepreneurial spirit kicked in, and he became both father and mother to 3 young children, and after Mom passed. He became everything. to us, our teacher, our disciplinarian, our biggest fan, albeit with a healthy serving of Pekong and Old Talk on his side. He didn't just fill the role of parent, he redefined it with passion. Dad taught us the meaning of resilience, hard work, and kindness. He showed me that life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass, but rather learning to dance in the rain. Many of the issues that we are still battling with as a family are directly related to the communal trauma from our mother's passing, his wife, and love of his life. That abrupt departure from this mortal coil changed everything. So many of the struggles that we still face are directly related to that. But we as the children ask for your continued grace and privacy as we work through this together as a family. And each of our experiences deserves respect and acknowledgement. We appreciate your concern. And we believe that our Father's legacy lives on in us, his grandchildren, and in countless lives that he touched. In his latter years, in the evening of his life, there were a number of health issues, and I'd like to just make mention of a few people who deserve special mention for the work that they did to help us shepherd Daddy through those last few years. Miss Joycelyn Constantine Anderson, who was his caretaker. Can we get a round of applause to Miss Joycelyn, please? Zabada Mohammed, his nutritionist, dietitian. Dr. Atto Potts and Dr. Nathaniel Duke. Miss Maisha Parker. Miss Amanda Dick. Dr. Joy Innes Johnson. And Jason Arthur. Today we mourn the loss of a life lived fully and fiercely. Last two sentences. I could do it. Resilience. And we celebrate the reunion of Boykin and Diane together again for all eternity. Rest well, Daddy. And give Mommy all love. Thank you. It is. All right, folks, we will be moving to the crematorium at 12 sharp. Thank you again for coming, and we appreciate you all.
Greetings to the family and friends who are present at this time on the occasion of the last rites of our dear George T. Daniel, known to us popularly as Boykin. It is a difficult moment for many of us. Let me first convey condolences to the immediate family and all the dear friends who have known Boykin over the years. For myself, I can say that there was a time in our lives when we were like brothers, not blood brothers, but close. We lived together in the same house. And so, of course, there are many memories. I would say that I recruited him on at least 2 occasions as a best man. So that gives you an idea of how close we were. Regretfully, time, events, family issues changed that relationship somewhat. And so we have not had any communication, I would say, for at least the last decade or so. But at this point in time, the gathering is to witness these final moments. And I have been asked to say a few words by his son, George B. Boykin, I would say, and I would begin by saying, was a fantastic individual in many ways. I think he went through various phases in his life, and it was interesting to see him straddle those years. Let me say this. While most of us were convinced and tried to follow the traditional path of academia for progressing in this life, part of the colonial inheritance, Boykin was different. I don't think he paid it much attention. The truth is that he had an entrepreneurial spirit. And for a young black man at that time, it was very unusual. And so he had a kind of a pioneering spirit in him. He ventured into various initiatives. I suppose some went okay, some didn't do too well, but the point is that he persevered. And we have to remember him as one of the rare individuals of that time. He married his dear wife, Diana, of course, one of the most beautiful young ladies of the time. And I am in a position to testify that he loved his wife. And they had some beautiful children, and he loved his children. I can recall those years. There was some difficulty in one particular case, but it is not that he didn't love. I think he didn't know how to handle it. And again, I can testify because I was there in the beginning of all these varying situations. He was, of course, very popular. The girls competed fiercely. But he focused, and Diana won the game. Diane, rather, won the game. I have been reminded, I would say, over the past 2 or 3 days by 1 or 2 people who knew him well that Boykin was an extremely kind person once you were not on his wrong side. There are many instances of his being very kind to people, and they will tell you. And that was a very good streak about him. He was dependable as somebody who cared for you, and he would go out of his way to accommodate, making people comfortable, contributing to their welfare and so on. And that is one thing we must remember about him. Whatever else, there was a very kind streak to him. And I pray that he received the blessings for those good years. Of course, he had this peculiar streak, even in his latter years, walking about in his short pants, which was unique at the time. One of the things is that, on reflection, there may have been issues with which many of us were not aware. But now is not the time. Now is not the time. And in his latter years, we know that his health situation was not of the best. But let us give thanks and praise, in particular, his son, Georgie B., who stood the ground, looked after his father, even though he was far away, made sure there was some minimum comforts, and stayed on the job to the very end. I have no doubt, Georgie B., that your blessings await you on the other side. Talking about kindness, which I mentioned just now, I know that his dear granddaughter, who I understand is with us at this point in time, the last time she encountered him, I think she developed a special kind of appreciation and likeness for her grandfather. And that is one of the good things about Boykin. If you got to know him well, and if you were on his right side, he was a remarkable individual. He was the kind of person that generally when you met him, you wondered sometimes, but it was not easy to forget him. And so at this time, friends and family, we say R.I.P., rest in peace. My understanding is that when the end comes, we will all travel what we may call the road to eternity. My further understanding is that there's a fork in that road, the one road to eternity, and that finally you go to either one side or the other. I am not going to attempt to judge which side of the big H he goes to. What we pray is for the very best for his soul. And so we say, dear George T. Daniel Jr., R.I.P. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.